I'm Dina Hollywood, manager of the San Ramon and Doherty Station Libraries. And on behalf of Contra Costa County Libraries, I want to welcome you to tonight's forum. We've worked closely with the League of Women Voters, the County Election Department, and CCTV to bring this program to our community. It will stream live on Facebook and will be available online after the program on the Library and County Elections Department websites, as well as the League of Women Voters EDGE website. Please join me in welcoming our moderator this evening, Jim Jekyll, who will be moderating the San Ramon Mayor portion. Jim is the past city manager of Antioch and Martinez Martinez, and has extensive public service experience. He is a member of the League of Women Voters of Diablo Valley, and we welcome him this evening. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much, Dina. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. This forum this evening is to present the candidates running for the San Ramon Mayor. There are two candidates for this office, and let me start by introducing them, Sanat Sethi and Bill Clarkson.
Thank you.
The League is a nonpartisan organization that does not support or oppose any candidate. We're here tonight as a part of our key mission to educate and inform voters. The candidates have pulled numbers to determine speaking order, and the closing statements will be in the reverse order. So the opening statement will be given by Mr. Sethi, and then followed by Mr. Clarkson, and then we'll reverse that at the end. I will be asking questions, and I will alternate those so that each candidate will have an opportunity to go first and second, so there's no advantage or disadvantage. To our audience, many of you have already done this, but if you'd like to have a question for both candidates, please write it on a 3x5 card and hand it to a volunteer, and they'll get it up to me. We'll try and screen them for duplicates, and I may try and combine some of them. I also have a series of questions that were submitted online earlier. Each candidate, when I ask a question, will have 1 minute. Personal attacks are not permitted. Statements made about other candidates must be from the public record or will not be allowed. Each speaker is going to be timed. They'll get a 1 minute. There'll be 2 timers in the front. When they get to 15 seconds left, they'll get a yellow warning sign. And then at the time, when 1 minute has been elapsed, they'll get the red sign, which means they need to wrap up their thought. Again, as Ann had mentioned, the forum is being taped. It's important now that if you haven't, to turn your cell phones off. And please, no unauthorized recordings or videos. And I please ask you not to cheer or applaud any statement. Now we'll proceed with the 1 minute opening statement with Mr. Sethi.
Thank you. Good evening. Thanks for coming and thanks for organizing. My name is Sanat Sethi. My wife and I are raising 2 kids in San Ramon. I'm a resident of San Ramon for 11 years. I'm an engineer, also have an MBA degree. I manage hundreds of people and millions of dollar budget for tech companies. I'm very new to politics, and why I had to step up. Why? Because city has a lot of issues, and somebody has to look at it and take care of it. Issues like traffic, issues like overcrowded school. Our budget is not balanced. Our reserves are down. Someone need to protect our golf courses, and so on and on. So we need a new leadership with a new, fresh vision, and leadership who listen to people and work for the residents or work for the people. So as your mayor, my passion will be leading the city in the right direction. Thank you.
Mr. Clarkson?
Welcome, everybody. This is really neat to have a small, intimate crowd tonight. This is great. San Ramon is a very successful city and a thriving city. When I ran for this 7 years ago, public safety was my first and foremost priority, and San Ramon was recognized this last week as being the second safest city in the Bay Area. And by the way, our year-to-date crime figures are down over 12% this year, so we're going to give a real run for number one this time. San Ramon is, and we've always prioritized open space, at least what this council has, and we've set aside and created an open space committee. We've dedicated and set up a fund for $3 million to be able to acquire and save and maintain our open spaces. Growth has always been a concern. It should be noted in the 7 years that I've been mayor, we've only approved a total of 157 net new units in San Ramon. And that is all. To close, you have to agree that San Ramon is a great place to live. And the cherry on the top of everything this last 2 weeks ago was we were mentioned and told that we were the best city to live in to raise a family here in the Bay Area. Thank you.
Thank you for those opening statements. Now, for the next 20 minutes or so, maybe 25 minutes, I will do my best to ensure that each candidate gets an equal opportunity to respond to a series of questions. So I'll be asking questions. These will be questions that have been submitted by you on cards this evening and may have been received online prior. So the first question will go to Mr. Clarkson. And this question is, would you describe yourself as a team player or a lone wolf, and what is the greatest strength that you have that you plan to use in your role as the mayor?
I think people would define me as definitely being a team player, somebody who really thrives in a collaborative environment. I try to meet people constantly. In fact, there's sort of a running joke in San Ramon that if you get invited to Pete's Coffee, it's because I want to get together with you and find out what you think of San Ramon. I think you thrive as a city and as a city leader when you spend time to listen to what other people think and you bring them into the process. In fact, this year we created a variety, not this last 7 years, we've created a variety of committees for our diversity committee, our open space committee, our Blue Ribbon Finance Committee, a variety of organizations where we brought citizens into that collaborative process and asked them to help us solve things going forward. I always believe in the wisdom of crowds, that the more you get people involved and get a diversity of opinion, you usually bring together a better solution than not.
And Mr. Sethi?
Yeah, so I'm a team player, and my work, that's what we develop something. In my work, we always do a project or finish a project. Any work we do, we always have to work together. And I just recently finished a big project where we have multiple teams and working in different locations. So for me, even in this process, I tried and talked to a lot of people, talked to the neighbors, the residents, the commissioner, whoever I meet and wherever I go and talk to people before this whole process started. As I said, and I'm new to politics, and I constantly talking to people about their issues. So for me, without getting their inputs, without getting working together, all the commissioners, committee, and any all the groups and the city employees, we cannot success anything. You cannot implement anything, or you cannot do anything. So that's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is back to you, Mr. Sethi. What is your philosophy on growth and development and impacts on infrastructure like streets and schools? I can. Bill just mentioned that in his time he just approved 150 or something. Those are excuses. What do you do? What did you do to stop it? What did you do? How many times you go back to state and fight and resist back? So we can same thing. I inherit something and I keep doing the same thing. For me, we are doing a rapid growth instead of a sustainable growth. We want to stop this whole nonsense. We need to go back to state and saying that we cannot do it. We work with these neighboring cities, and we work with the League of California cities, and our attorney, our residents. We come up with a plan. We go back and tell them. And look at our schools. Our schools, high schools are jam-packed, and middle schools are jam-packed. I have 2 kids, one goes to a high school, one middle schooler, and I've seen that. Numbers are, teacher versus student is 34, or maybe more or less, I don't know. So we need to some plan to reduce. Thank you, Mr. Sethi. Mr. Clarkson.
First, I want to share a philosophy and then share an example. One of the guiding principles and philosophies I have been the last 7 years is that when growth approaches us or we have to look at projects, we always want to protect existing neighborhoods from the effects of change and development. And I think that we've done a great job at protecting our local neighborhoods from the effects of change and the effects of growth. An example is there was a project called, and is called, the Crow Canyon Specific Plan. It's up there near where the outpost used to be. And that at one time was zoned up to 50 acres, 50 units per acre. And this council, working along with the Planning Commission, is endeavoring to reduce the density out there by 40% on an area that was already zoned 50, down to only reduce it by 40%, and also reduce the footprint of where homes could be built. It's one of the ways we want to help control the out-of-control growth that sometimes occurs.
Thank you. Next question is back to you, Mr. Clarkson. How would you characterize the current state of the city budget?
Some of the metrics, we finished with a $2.8 million positive balance in the black. We finished with a $2.4 million balance the year before that. And in fact, I think every year going back to 7 years, we've had a positive balance. We have a reserve right now of 48% of our expenses in the bank, and those are unallocated, which means we're free to use those if emergencies arrive. We have a policy that was thoughtfully put together to have a minimum of 40%. We have another 20% of allocated reserves that go to other accounts. And our rating is AAA with the bond agency, so you can see we are a solid organization and we're doing very well.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Sethi?
About the budget, I disagree with Bill. If anybody knows, understand finances, you can go to city finance and look at the budget from last 7 years. Our revenue left 7 years, from 2011 I'm talking about. We don't have a lot of information in the city website prior to 2013. I've studied all of them. Our revenue gone up 40 millions from 60 to 107. And our reserve is down from 100% to 40%. So 15 million, I don't know exact number, but it is down. So that means what happened? So that means we make less money and spend more. So why the reserve is down then? The reserve should go up. So for me, city need to be a balanced budget, and city need the money for any time recession can come, and we need money for the rainy day. So and the city is now, within last 10 years, it has grown a lot more people. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. You get the next question. This is from the audience. Many citizens are concerned about the fate of the former Mud's restaurant site or land or property. What is your position on this?
Mud's, my position, it was given to us as a park, and I don't know why it is not rezoned yet. So we need to, as a mayor, I will do it very immediate action. We need to rezone as a park. And I heard last time, I don't know exact the numbers, but it was planning to give into a private business for some daycare or something. We can have a daycare. Daycare is not a bad thing. We can have it somewhere else. But we need to make sure that is, as a nature park, should go to the part of the Crow Canyon Park. We cannot give that. And that was, and with exchange of 200,000 some donation to these other parks. But I want much to be back to the park, and it is zoned as a park. That is my stand on it.
And Mr. Clarkson?
For those who aren't familiar, the Mud's restaurant property is where the old Mud's restaurant used to be, one that many of us enjoyed. And it was zoned, and it still is zoned, commercial. And the city, when they inherited back when the redevelopment agencies were dissolved, became a successor trustee and had to sell it per the orders of the state. Luckily, we found that there was huge environmental erosion problems on the creek, and the property was essentially worthless. And the state allowed us over a period of time to purchase it for $1. So we're now having that property go through our Parks Commission, and it is their duties to go through and to bring back to us with their 10-year master planning and how we want to incorporate that piece of property into the Crow Canyon Gardens. I've encouraged that. I think it'd be a great spot to encourage it as a part of the Crow Canyon Gardens, Mud, and part of the Mud's property, and be a park. But I'm looking forward to the recommendations from our Planning Commission, our Parks Commission, and to go from there. I cannot, as a mayor, arbitrarily change the zoning, nor can any council member. We have to wait for the recommendations from our Parks Commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you. And next question to you, Mr. Clarkson. What is your opinion of the city center project, the traffic impacts, and how should it be promoted and the city of San Ramon?
When I was running, well, the last 30 years I've lived in San Ramon for 40 years. We've talked about getting and needing a downtown for at least 30 years for those who've been around. When I was elected, it was perhaps one of the most compelling issues that was brought to me is when are we going to finally build the downtown, because every plan fell apart. And so I was really proud that during this city council, along with our planning commission, was able to bring forth and actually have not just the approval, but actually have our city center, our downtown start. Now, what you see is not the entire downtown. It's only a small part of a 200-acre walking district that'll include that and the lakes and the Central Park. Architecturally, it's going to be an interesting building. Designed by Renzo Piano, who is a world-famous architect. I think time will tell how well it is accepted by the residents. We require the developer of that property to spend over $12 million to expand the capacity of Bollinger Canyon by over 35% to be able to carry the traffic.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sethi.
Yeah, city center. I like the idea. I like them all. Maybe we can the city can get more revenue, and city will have no new restaurants, which we don't have a lot. But the traffic, that's a big concern. So I asked we had a presentation from the city center people, and I asked how many you're thinking about, how many cars is going to go drive in the street. They don't have an answer, or they don't want to tell me what is the answer. And then the bigger problem happened when there is a middle, they're building another 500 condominium between the city center and city hall. So what happened to the traffic? How they're going to go around and how the people live? We don't have any plan. So I have a concern and how it's going to do. And I don't know what happened to our safety. Our safety, we have a great police force, but our crime rate is increased 20%, as I saw the last month, the police report. And I asked even this police department for, sorry, I have to.
Thank you very much. So you'll get the next question, though. So what is your position on marijuana businesses in San Ramon?
My position, I don't know much about it. We don't do any kind of, it's always a state and federal, state governed rules. But no, I don't think we want to have any businesses get licensed in the city of San Ramon. So that's my position on it.
Mr. Clarkson?
It's come before our city council, and we voted not to allow sales or distribution of marijuana in San Ramon. The only thing that can be done is the minimum that's required by the state, but otherwise, we're not going to allow it, period.
Thank you. Mr. Clarkson, you get the next question. Should taxpayers pay for city services like sports field use by San Ramon teams?
We have facilities all over the city. Community centers, senior center, all of them, by the way, require that whoever uses them has to pay for the fee to use them. You have to have some cost. We allow San Ramon residents to rent them for less money than we do for non-residents. And so we do charge money to use any of the facilities. If you made everything free, unfortunately, everybody would obviously, there wouldn't be a way of regulating that very, very well. So we do charge money. Excuse me. Although I have spoken both to the Parks Commission and to our staff, that I think it's really important that we have fees that are proportional to the services that especially our sports teams do. These sports teams organize 2,500 kids in soccer, 2,500 kids in baseball, put together wonderful programs for us. They take care of all the hassle of the coaches and the concerns. They take care of staffing everything, and they give a wonderful, wonderful program to all of our residents. And I think we should be really mindful to make sure that we don't charge them too much to use our fields. Thank you.
Mr. Sethi?
Yes, I have two kids, and I know a lot of parents, and my son goes to the baseball leagues, and my daughter used to play soccer. And I know not all the parents can afford that much amount. It's $14 to $67 per hour, and if it's evening time, you have to pay for the lighting and stuff like that. It comes per game, $100, and compared to Pleasanton and other cities, not that much. So for me, if I'm mayor, I will make it free for our kids. If it's a resident kid and it's a non-profit leagues, we should give them a free, because you're already paying tax, and it should be everything, our fields, our sports field, and our schools, our roads, it should become with the whole thing, whole city. So, and make sure I will do a couple of things. If the city need money, we need to make maybe we can control the cost. Maybe use solar panels for the lighting, and maybe ask somebody to adopt a field program so some local business can give us some money to run the sports field. Thank you.
Thank you. And you'll get the next question. The city of San Ramon has been receiving the accolades mentioned earlier for being the #2 city to raise a family in California. How would you plan, or what needs to be done to make it the #1?
So the first thing, the same thing, what my platform is. So reduce the traffic, make sure the schools are better, make sure we have more parks, make sure we save our golf courses, make sure we have more community event, and make sure we construct more schools. Actually, I went to talk to few of the parents in Doddy area. They said the school is crowded, so we need to make sure our generation and future generation and kids can go to schools, and the schools are good schools, and then we want to maintain that way. Thank you.
Mr. Clarkson?
Given the limited time of 60 seconds, the idea that I had broached about 2 years ago was that with the city center coming online, that we had this mixture of a lake over at the old AT&T building that's 12 acres, open to the public. We have Central Park, which is 50 acres, and there is a trail that goes through all of that. And the idea of creating a walking district in San Ramon that would tie the parks and the lake and the city center all together with the 2.1-mile trail. In fact, some of you may have come on some of those hikes we've done to show it off. It's an amazing place, and I think the missing piece for San Ramon has always been to have some there. Having raised in Oakland, always feeling secondary to San Francisco, creating a fun, vibrant place so when you have friends that come from out of town, isn't going just to the city centers. You want to go sail a boat in the lake? You want to go to a concert in the park? Do you want to take a walk with the dog around the 2.1 miles and just get out in the openness so you can be in an urban setting but have a very rural sort of feel to it? So I'm really excited about our walking district coming on board.
Thank you. And the next question, right back to you. What is your opinion of the Church of the Valley project, and what types of mitigation measures would you support?
This really segues into a more important question. Council members cannot show bias and cannot talk about projects prior to them coming to them. In fact, in 2015, there was case law, Woody versus the city of Newport Beach, so you can look that up. And there were 3 factors they made very clear in that court ruling: that an applicant is absolutely entitled to a fair hearing, which of course would seem reasonable, right? That there can be no bias by the council members making the decision, that if a council member has bias, they have to recuse themselves and cannot participate. But if that council member or mayor insists on being a part of the panel, even though they've shown bias in advance, the ruling will be vacated. It's very clear that as a council member, you cannot take a stand. And the irony is, by taking a stand in advance, you cannot serve on the council and make a decision, whether it's the golf course or whether it's Church of the Valley. You have already recused yourself and you can no longer participate.
Mr. Sethi?
I've seen a lot of debates and a lot of political candidate talk about it, and every candidate take their stand. I haven't seen that's anything wrong. And I'm going to tell right now what is my stand on this one. For me, I've seen both the side of the story, and then who's supporting and who's against it. And for me, I'm going to go talk to the neighbors, talk to the developers, and follow the city ordinances. How much should be, the setback, and how much should be to the creek, and all these things. We sit together as a community, and all the groups and everybody, and then take a decision. Rather, we just go with one way and try to take a decision. And I don't know how the recuse work, but my stand is that I will sit down, talk to the people, talk to the group, talk to the neighbors, and take a final decision on that one. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And this will be the final question. It'll start with you, Mr. Sethi. If the city received a $10 million grant or windfall to use in any way, what would you do with it and why?
Oh, the first thing I will do, we as much as we have a lot of issues in our parks and our schools, and that I need to make sure. And also some of the, there is a one park need to be open, Woodlot, that's closed down. That's a chain lock for last 5 years. I can work on that and small amount of money. We can open the muds back again, back business, and we need to make sure traffic issues. And I have a few things I put together, very small. It won't cost a lot of money. Just fixing a few traffic things, and because people takes 30 minutes, 20 minutes more for daily life or every day, going to work and coming back and they're spending it. So we can help that way. So thank you.
And Mr. Clarkson?
Boy, wouldn't this be fun to have $10 million. I can only imagine that some of it I would allocate immediately to pave some of our streets and some of our neighborhoods that are in desperate need to be paved. I think that's very important, both in terms of safety. The next is there is a jewel in the San Ramon called Forest Home Farms. I hope you've all visited Forest Home Farms. It's in desperate need of a lot of money to both fix the Boone House, also to renovate the old 1875 barn. I think there is a park called Henry Ranch Park on the west side. I could see some money to make sure that it could be a very great passive park, but also lead into the trails up into the East Bay parks. I agree the Woodlot as a passive park could be an idea, but I think I would focus on and spend some time thinking about what is our infrastructure that needs to be improved, because if you don't take care of your infrastructure, you eventually get bigger bills down the line when the expense becomes more expensive. So paving roads might be my first priority, especially if you live on a street that really needs to be paved. I think that's something you would really appreciate. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And I apologize now to the audience if I didn't get your question asked. There are a number of other questions that I had to get through and many that I did not get through, and they were outstanding questions. Perhaps the candidates will stay afterwards for a few moments and you'll have an opportunity to talk to them directly. So now we move on to the closing statements. Each candidate will have 1 minute for a closing statement, and we'll start with Mr. Clarkson.
I think we would all agree that San Ramon is an extraordinary place to live. We're very fortunate, very blessed to be in San Ramon, but we cannot take this for granted. And when it comes to public safety, we need to continue to give our police the tools they need so they can keep us safe. We need to make sure that when it comes to growth, we protect all of our existing neighborhoods from the effects of growth and change. We want to continue to expand not just open space, but more importantly, we need to create trails that come from Iron Horse Trail through our neighborhoods, through our open space areas, and into East Bay parks. Someday I really dream that we'll have a trail that goes from the Tassajara Valley all the way to our western hills, and that people can enjoy those kinds of hiking trails. And the last is that we be very mindful of our finances, that we don't spend one-time monies on ongoing expenses, that we take care of our infrastructures, because that's an expensive fix later on, and that we really feel blessed that we live in a great place. We've got great community leaders around here all throughout the system. And I really appreciate our staff, our police, and all of the people who go to work for us every day. We are blessed to have the most amazing employees here in San Ramon. Thank you.
And Mr. Sethi.
I know it's a 1 minute, so I need to be quick. Folks, my opponent had 7 years. And what we got? We got traffic, we got less reserve, financial reserve, we got unbalanced budget, we got rapid growth instead of sustainable growth. So, what we need a new leadership. We need a fresh vision who can lead this city in the right direction. As a mayor, I have a list of things I need to take care of immediately. So we need to solve the traffic. We need to make sure we have a sustainable growth. We need to make sure we protect our San Ramon golf courses. We need to protect our mudland or rezone to the park. We need to make sure the Woodlot Park is open for people to walk around and walking their dogs. And need to make sure we have acceptable solution for Church of the Valley. We need to protect our urban limit line, and we need to protect our city reserve. Need to make sure we give enough tools and services for the police to reduce their crime.
Great.
Thank you.
And thank you to both candidates. I want to thank the Contra Costa Libraries, the Elections Department, and CCTV for co-sponsoring tonight's forum, and thank you to all of you in the audience for your respectful attention. I again want to thank the candidates who have offered their service, their ideas, and their commitment to their community. Be sure to vote on November 6th or earlier. These are your two candidates for San Ramon Mayor, and let's give them a great hand of applause.
Thank you, sir.